Seated behind a grand mahogany desk, a mature executive with salt and pepper hair and a well-groomed beard savored a moment of tranquility. With a serious expression, he observed the urban landscape stretching before him, while the blue smoke from a lit Havana cigar lazily rose towards the ceiling. Suddenly, the office door creaked open, and in stepped a young man with an athletic build and a mischievous smile. He was his son's best friend, a handsome and self-assured man exuding undeniable magnetism. The mature man looked up, surprised by the unexpected visit. Rising gracefully, he left the cigar in the ashtray and welcomed the young man with a friendly gesture. Approaching confidently, the young man closed the door behind him. With a playful sparkle in his eyes, he stopped in front of the mature man, exuding a captivating energy that filled the room. "Good afternoon, Mr. Parker," said the young man with a charming smile. "I hope I'm not interrupting." The mature man nodded politely, taken aback by the unexpected visit but showing no signs of discomfort. He had known the young man for years, watching him grow into the confident and attractive man standing before him. "Don't worry, Chris," replied the mature man with a smile. "How can I help you?" Chris smiled, crossing his legs gracefully as he settled into one of the comfortable leather armchairs facing the desk. While Chris made himself comfortable, the mature man sat back behind the desk, observing the young man with curiosity. "So, what did you want to talk about?" asked the mature man, trying to hide his intrigue behind a neutral expression. Chris smiled, his eyes gleaming with an intensity that did not go unnoticed by the mature man. "Well, I actually wanted to discuss a business opportunity I've been considering," said Chris, momentarily averting his gaze before meeting the mature man's eyes again. "But before we get into the details, I'd like to talk a little bit about you." The mature man raised an eyebrow, intrigued by Chris's mysterious suggestion. He wasn't accustomed to his conversation partners steering the conversation in that direction, but he decided to play along and see where it led. "About me?" echoed the mature man, keeping his tone serene. "What do you want to know?" Chris smiled, crossing his legs gracefully as he settled into one of the comfortable leather armchairs facing the desk. "Well, for starters, I've always admired your career," said Chris sincerely. "You're a very successful businessman, and I've heard many good things about you." The mature man nodded gratefully, feeling flattered by the compliment. "Thank you, Chris," he responded modestly. "It's a pleasure to know that my work is appreciated." Chris nodded, his smile widening. "But beyond your professional career, I've also heard interesting things about your personal life," continued Chris, his tone taking on a more serious note. "Especially about your tastes and preferences." The mature man arched an eyebrow, surprised by the direction the conversation was taking. He wasn't used to people taking such an interest in his personal life, let alone such intimate aspects as his tastes and preferences. "My tastes and preferences," he repeated, feeling a little uncomfortable. "I'm not sure what you mean." Chris leaned forward, his eyes shining with an intensity that made it clear he knew exactly what he meant. "Oh, I think you know what I mean, Mr. Parker," said Chris, his voice smooth and seductive. "I've heard that you have a particular fondness for men, haven't you?" The mature man was momentarily breathless, taken aback by Chris's audacity. He had never spoken openly about his sexuality with anyone, let alone his son's friend. "I don't know where you got that idea, Chris," said the mature man, trying to maintain his composure. "But I don't think that's any of your business." Chris smiled, his gaze challenging. "Oh, I think it is, Mr. Parker," said Chris, his voice laden with determination. "Because I know you also have a particular interest in me." The mature man was speechless, surprised by Chris's direct confession. He had never considered the possibility that Chris might be interested in him in that way, let alone that he knew. "I don't know what you're talking about, Chris," said the mature man, trying to keep his voice firm. "But I assure you that you're mistaken." Chris stood up from the armchair, stepping closer to the mature man with determined strides. He stopped in front of him, his intense gaze fixed on the mature man's. "I'm not mistaken, Mr. Parker," said Chris, his tone soft but firm. "And I know you're not either." Without saying another word, Chris leaned forward and captured the mature man's lips with his own, enveloping him in a whirlwind of passion and forbidden desire. The mature man succumbed to the ardor of the moment, leaving behind all inhibitions and surrendering to the ardor of the moment.